Medieval justice didn't care if you were sorry. It didn't care if you were innocent. It cared if you bled loud enough to set an example. Because back then, law enforcement meant torture chambers, public executions, and creative new ways to turn a confession into a corpse. Break the rules, and you didn't get a fine. You got flayed. These are 7 of the most real, most brutal punishments ever handed out in the Middle Ages, ranked from cruel to completely unhinged. So next time someone says I was born in the wrong era, just show them this video. 7. The Ducking Stool, because drowning builds character. Your crime? Being a loud woman? Or suspected of being a witch? Or just annoying the wrong man? Your punishment? Being strapped to a chair and dunked repeatedly into freezing water until you confessed or drowned, whichever came first. This was the Ducking Stool, a favourite in medieval Europe and colonial America. Think of it like waterboarding's medieval cousin. Victims were tied to a wooden chair mounted on a long beam. Crowds gathered, guards smirked, and then, splash. If you floated, you were guilty. If you sank, you were innocent. Either way, you weren't walking away. And if you were really lucky, they left your underclothes on. Because modesty, obviously. Ducking was meant to humiliate. But head trauma, cold shock and terror often did the rest. Also, being accused didn't require proof. Just a neighbour with a grudge and bad soup. The Pair of Anguish, invented by a man who needed therapy. Let's say you're accused of lying, blasphemy, or God forbid, having sex outside marriage. The medieval fix. Insert a metal pear into your body, then crank it open. The Pair of Anguish was a bronze device shaped like a fruit, but instead of seeds, it had 4 expanding metal petals and a screw handle. It could be inserted orally, vaginally, or rectally, depending on your sin. Once inside, it was slowly expanded, not to kill, to destroy. If your mouth told lies, let's rip it apart. If your body committed lust, let's split it open. Most victims didn't live long, but the ones who did probably never sat again. Historians debate how often it was used versus threatened, but the tool was real, and it wasn't just punishment, it was a performance. 5. Sawing in half, the slowest exit possible. No one talks about this one, probably because just picturing it makes your spine try to evacuate your body. Sawing in half was for the worst criminals, or people who annoyed a ruler. You were tied upside down by your ankles, legs spread, and then they started sawing, from the groin down, slowly. Hanging you upside down kept blood in your brain, which meant you stayed awake for most of it. It wasn't quick, it was deliberate, a public anatomy lesson. Some accounts come from Europe, others Asia, but the method, tragically consistent. 2 men, 1 saw, 0 mercy. No one survives a sawing, they just run out of screams. 4. The Iron Maiden. You've seen it. The iron coffin. Human-sized. Spiked. The Iron Maiden. Here's the twist. It may not have been real, at least not in the Middle Ages. Many historians think it was a 19th century hoax, made for museums and scaring tourists. But some medieval texts do mention spiked chambers. And let's be honest, if anyone was building stabby death boxes, it was a medieval inquisitor. Here's how it supposedly worked. You'd be placed inside. The doors closed. Slowly. The spikes pierced organs but avoided instant death, so you bled, and bled, and bled. Whether real or not, the Iron Maiden became a symbol of medieval cruelty. Too iconic to ignore. Too painful to prove. 3. The Breaking Wheel. AKA, let's smash every bone you have. They called it breaking, because that's exactly what it did. The breaking wheel was a massive wooden wagon wheel. You'd be tied to it, spread-eagled, then beaten with a heavy iron bar, joint by joint, elbows, knees, shins, ankles, 1 bone at a time. Sometimes the limbs were threaded between the spokes, so the bones could twist and spiral like grotesque spaghetti. If the crowd was lucky, you lived long enough to scream for hours. If they were merciful, you got a final blow to the chest. But mercy wasn't fashionable. Some victims lasted days, alive, broken, swarmed by flies, displayed like meat on a rotisserie. Even the executioners hated this one. But the law didn't care. Bones were meant to brawl. 2. Flaying, the human peel. If you made it to flaying, congratulations, someone really wanted to make a point. Flaying was the process of being skinned alive, used for traitors, rebels, heretics, and sometimes just unlucky citizens. The victim would be tied to a post. Then, starting at the limbs, the executioner would slice the skin off, strip by strip, like peeling an apple, if apples screamed. A skilled executioner could keep you alive through most of it. An unskilled one would kill you early, by accident, or kindness. Some towns even nailed the peeled skin to city gates. Here's what happened to the last guy who didn't pay his taxes. Flaying wasn't just violence, it was a billboard, and your body was the message. 1. Rat torture. The worst. Not because of how it started, but because of what was waiting inside the bucket. Rat torture wasn't medieval ingenuity, it was medieval surrender. Why invent a device when nature already has monsters? Here's how it worked. You'd be tied down, shirtless. A metal pot filled with rats was placed on your stomach or chest. The back of the bowl was heated with fire. And the rats, they panicked. They needed to escape. And the only way out was through you. They dug, bit, scratched, burrowed into flesh. If you were unlucky, they made it to your organs before you passed out. If you were very unlucky, you stayed awake for all of it. There were no restraints, no mechanics, no guards with blades, just you and hunger with claws. It wasn't execution, it was psychological collapse, and it ranks number 1 because it used something small to deliver something unspeakably horrifying. You weren't just dying, you were being consumed. There you have it. 7 ways the medieval world turned punishment into performance art. If you lied, they filled your mouth with iron. If you stole, they shattered your bones. If you disobeyed, they fed you to the rats. Forget trials, forget innocence. Justice wasn't blind, it just liked to watch. Which punishment shocked you the most? Let us know below. Unless you're worried someone in the comments has an 8th one, subscribe for more disturbing true stories from history. Because the past wasn't wise, it was loud, bloody, and unbelievably creative about pain.